What's the moment you realize school doesn't teach you everything? Back when I was studying dermatology, I truly believed that complex medicine was the only way to look young, until I saw my husband's 72-year-old grandmother who looked in her 40s. I was visiting his family in Southern California to celebrate our engagement, and on the drive there my husband joked telling me not to mention that I studied dermatology to his grandmother. I asked him why, and he told me that she was gonna go into her outdated spiel about why she looks 30 years younger than she really is. He told me everyone already knew how she does it, and the entire family was so bored of hearing how she looks so young. But I'd never heard of it, and because my own wrinkles were starting to form, I needed to know. I remember when I met her I was fully taken aback. I thought he was exaggerating when he said she looked in her 40s at 70, but he wasn't lying. Not only that, his entire family looked decades younger. The first thing I asked his grandmother was how she looked so young, and the entire family simultaneously groaned like it was some kind of cartoon. My husband even started encouraging her not to spend the next hour talking about it, but it was futile. She sat me down and asked me if I had ever heard about the Korean method. Given that she was whiter than snow, I was taken aback, especially because it's kind of a meme that white people don't age well. I asked her what this Korean method was, and she told me she learned about it in the rural areas of South Korea when she spent 7 years living there. I asked why Korea specifically, and she told me that Korea ranks #1 in skincare because they are obsessed with looking youthful. She told me they spend billions every year on research on how to look younger. And every year, the answer of how to look younger remains the same. I remember genuinely not believing her when she told me that this was the only thing you needed because the answer just seemed too simple. I was really fascinated and asked her to explain it in more detail, and I was hung on her every word, especially because she was the only one not gatekeeping this information. When my husband and I were driving back home, I couldn't stop ranting about what his grandmother told me, and he joked that I was just like her now. I told him that if he was a dermatologist or even cared the least bit about his skin, then he would listen to her and take everything she said seriously. I told him I was going to try it when I got home, and that I was so glad we took this trip because my skin could use the rejuvenation. I started a week later, and after using her method consistently for 2 weeks, my crow's feet were fading. I was practically jumping up and down with joy because my professors always said the only way I could get rid of my crow's feet was through Botox and plastic surgery. But I didn't want to pay thousands of dollars to look plastic, and Botox always ends up ruining your skin in the long run. It's a short-term solution. I told my husband, and I swear he was getting sick of me, but he still smiled every time I started to rant. I told him that his mother needed to start a seminar or something because this was incredible. I remember him staring at me for a very long time and saying that I did look younger. That gave me so much confidence I didn't even know existed within me. Everywhere I went that day, I held my head up with pride, and people were starting to notice me more. It was like they were whipping their heads back to look at me. Some women even stopped me on the street to compliment my skin and ask me what my routine was. When I told them, they also couldn't believe me. I told them I went through the same thing, but look at me now. 2 weeks later, my hyperpigmentation was gone and I felt like I had never gone through teenage puberty. My skin was also becoming a lot smoother, and I realized it was because my skin barrier was fixing. I couldn't believe that my husband's grandmother had actually found something that not only got rid of wrinkles and hyperpigmentation, but also fixed the skin barrier. This usually required multiple products or multiple procedures. But no, she had the most simple solution ever. This was too good to be true, so I told my professor about it, and he practically repeated verbatim what my grandmother had said. He explained that because I was putting something with kynotin in it, my skin cells were regenerating faster, holding more moisture, and repairing damage almost overnight. My professor then stared at me, just like my husband had done weeks prior, and said I looked like the youngest 28-year-old he had ever seen. He said my skin was reversing in age and said he was going to show it to his wife too because she was insecure about aging. I joked that most women are, and he said that's why he was glad I showed this to him at the right time. If he could get rid of the wrinkles on his wife's face, she would be the happiest woman ever. I joked that I was glad I could help. After 2 months, my skin was brighter than ever. I literally glowed, like one of those Korean models. My skin was so healthy, my makeup sat so well on my face, it wasn't cakey or patchy, and I didn't even need foundation most days because of how clear my face was. My husband even said looking at me felt like we had gone back in time, and he felt 20 all over again, which is exactly how old I looked. He said he was glad his grandmother's secret worked so well, especially since I was so excited about it. So what was the secret? Growth Factor Sunscreen by Sunray. I had never heard of sunscreen being able to clear wrinkles and brighten your skin by clearing hyperpigmentation, but it made sense when his grandmother and my professor said it was all due to the kynotin in the Growth Factor sunscreen. No other sunscreen has this ingredient, so no other sunscreen will get rid of these problems. And because I liked it so much, I continued my studies in dermatology so that I could recommend Sunray Growth Factor to anyone who walks through my door, and fix their skin really easily. No one should have to miss out on Sunray Growth Factor, and no one does after I started professionally working as a dermatologist.